Emma Price was 27 years old when she disappeared. It was a Tuesday evening, October 15th. She'd stopped at the grocery store on her way home from work, just like she did every week. Her car was found abandoned 2 blocks from her apartment. Driver's door still open, groceries scattered across the pavement. But Emma was gone. The police found her phone on the ground next to a broken carton of milk. The last call she'd made was to her sister, Jessica, at 6:47 p.m. She'd been laughing, talking about weekend plans. By 7:15, when Jessica tried calling back, there was no answer. Emma had vanished without a trace. What the police didn't know was that Emma was still alive, and she was running out of time. Emma woke up in darkness. Her head pounded, and when she tried to move, she realized her hands were bound behind her back. As her eyes adjusted, she could make out concrete walls, a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and a heavy metal door with no handle on the inside. She had no idea where she was or how long she'd been unconscious. She tried to scream, but her throat was raw and dry. That's when she noticed something scratched into the concrete wall next to where she sat. Names. At least a dozen names carved crudely into the stone. Sarah Mitchell, Jennifer Cruz, Amanda Foster. Below each name, a number. 72, 68, 71. Emma's blood ran cold. Were these hours? The hours they'd survived? And then she saw the camera, a small red light blinking in the corner of the ceiling. Someone was watching her. A speaker crackled to life, and a distorted voice filled the room. "Welcome, Emma. You're probably wondering why you're here. The answer is simple. You saw something you shouldn't have, and now you're going to help me finish what I started." Emma's mind raced. What had she seen? Then it hit her. 3 days ago, while leaving work late, she'd witnessed an argument in the parking garage. A man in a security uniform shouting at someone in a sedan. She'd thought nothing of it at the time, but now she realized she'd seen his face. She could identify him. The voice continued. "Every 12 hours you'll be given a task. Complete it, and you earn food and water. Refuse, and, well, you'll see what happens. You have 72 hours, Emma. That's how long everyone gets. Use them wisely." The speaker went silent. Emma was alone again, but she wasn't going to be another name on that wall. Emma forced herself to think clearly. Panic wouldn't save her. She began examining every inch of her prison. The walls were solid concrete. The door was reinforced steel. But the light bulb, it was old, hanging from an exposed wire. And the camera was mounted with cheap plastic brackets. These weren't weaknesses yet, but they were possibilities. 12 hours passed. Emma had been given a single bottle of water and a protein bar after she'd completed the first task, counting every crack in the walls and reporting the number through the speaker. It was psychological torture, meaningless, busy work designed to break her spirit. But Emma was counting something else, the seconds between camera movements. The camera swept the room in a pattern, and for exactly 8 seconds every 2 minutes, there was a blind spot near the door. By hour 36, Emma had managed to loosen the ropes around her wrists. She'd been working them slowly, carefully, whenever the camera swept away. Her wrists were raw and bleeding, but she could almost slip one hand free. She just needed more time and a distraction. The next task came. The voice instructed her to move a heavy crate from one side of the room to the other. As Emma struggled with the weight, she noticed something she'd missed before. Behind where the crate had been sitting, there was a ventilation grate. Small, but maybe large enough. Her heart raced. This was it. This was her chance. Emma made her decision.
As she set the crate down, she stumbled and fell, crying out in pain. She lay on the floor, motionless. Through half-closed eyes, she watched the camera. It stayed focused on her for several seconds, then continued its sweep. The voice came through the speaker. "Get up, Emma. Don't waste my time." But Emma didn't move. She was waiting.
5 minutes passed. 10. Then she heard it. Footsteps outside the door. A lock clicking. The door began to open. Emma stayed perfectly still, barely breathing. A figure entered, wearing a mask and gloves. He approached her cautiously. "I said get up," he demanded. Emma waited until he was close enough. Then she moved. With her hands finally free, Emma grabbed the water bottle she'd been given and swung it with all her strength at his head. The captor stumbled backwards, surprised. Emma didn't hesitate. She ran for the open door, her legs weak from days of sitting, but adrenaline pushing her forward. Beyond the door was a corridor. Concrete walls, flickering fluorescent lights, and more doors. Emma realized with horror that she wasn't alone down here. How many other rooms were there? How many other people? But she couldn't stop. Behind her, she could hear him recovering, shouting into a radio. She ran toward a green exit sign at the end of the hall. The exit led to a stairwell. Emma took the stairs 2 at a time, her lungs burning. She could hear footsteps behind her, getting closer. 1 floor, 2 floors, 3. Finally, she burst through a door and found herself in a parking structure. It was night. She was somewhere in the city, but she had no idea where. Emma ran toward the exit, her bare feet slapping against cold concrete. She saw a couple walking to their car and screamed for help. The man turned, saw her, covered in dirt, wrists bleeding, eyes wild with terror, and immediately pulled out his phone. Behind Emma, her captor had reached the parking level. But he stopped when he saw witnesses. He couldn't risk it. Slowly, he backed into the shadows and disappeared. The police arrived within minutes. Emma was taken to a hospital, treated for dehydration and minor injuries. But she was alive. She'd survived her 72 hours, and she could identify him. The man who'd taken her was actually Marcus Webb, a security contractor who worked at her office building. He'd been watching her for weeks. Using Emma's description of the location, police raided the building within hours. It was an abandoned medical facility on the outskirts of the city. In the basement, they found 6 rooms. 5 were empty, but showed evidence of previous occupants. In the 6th room, they found another woman, Rachel Kim, had been missing for 48 hours. Emma's escape had saved her life. Marcus Webb was arrested trying to flee the state. In his apartment, police found detailed files on 17 women, including Emma. Photographs, schedules, routes they took home. 8 of the women matched the names on that concrete wall. They'd never been found. But because of Emma's courage and quick thinking, Marcus Webb would never hurt anyone again. Emma spent weeks recovering, both physically and mentally. The nightmares were the worst part. Waking up thinking she was back in that room, hearing that distorted voice. But she was surrounded by family, friends, and a trauma counselor who specialized in kidnapping survivors. Slowly, she began to heal. 6 months later, Emma testified at Marcus Webb's trial. She looked him in the eye and described everything he'd done to her. Her testimony was powerful, unwavering. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Marcus Webb was found guilty on multiple counts of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and murder. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. Emma never forgot those 72 hours. How could she? But she refused to let them define her. She became an advocate for missing persons, working with families and law enforcement to bring attention to cold cases. The names on that wall,
Sarah, Jennifer, Amanda, and 5 others. Their families finally got answers, and Emma made sure they were never forgotten. Sometimes survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about refusing to give up, even when every instinct tells you there's no hope. Emma Price was taken, tortured psychologically, and given 72 hours to live. But she fought back. She escaped, and in doing so, she saved not just herself, but everyone who might have come after her. Her name would never be scratched into a wall. Instead, it would be remembered for something far more powerful: courage.